Welcome back to our channel, guys. Today we have a very interesting conversation on autism spectrum disorder, one of the most misunderstood conditions in the world, and we want to really continue this conversation so that we can enlighten all of us and how to manage this disorder. So autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects how a person thinks, how a person behaves, how a person interacts with others, or even how a person learns. And the two key symptoms are social communication challenges, as well as repetitive or restrictive behaviors. So this is where you find a child has trouble playing with others. A child does not maintain eye contact. They may have rigid styles of playing, repetitive behaviors. Unaweza mwekea toys hapa, uone ameshida na toy moja for a long time. Unajaribu kumuongelesha, hakusikizi, they are not hearing you. You try pointing them to something, so they don't have verbal intelligence. And you may realize they have trouble playing with others, and so on and so forth. So science have tried to really look at what are the causes of autism spectrum disorder, and these are genetics. For example, somebody who has a history of Down syndrome, Rett syndrome, children who are born with low birth weight, children who are born to parents who are older in age, as well as other environmental factors. So I want to welcome Antpas to maybe share with us how are families affected by having a child with autism spectrum.
Thank you for that very good introduction of this topic of ASD. Now I'm going to just focus on the family and the impact of this condition in the family, kwa sababu unapata hawa watoto wamekuja kwa that setting, probably they are the firstborn ama wako lastborn ama wako tu pahali kwa hiyo familia. Their siblings and now their parents. Now there are certain challenges that will affect the parent, the siblings and the family as a whole. So kitu cha kwanza inakuwa ni mahitaji ya kipesa. So first impact is going to be on the family in terms of financial implications, because this child or this individual will need treatment. And because they are special children, even when it comes to education, watahitaji specialized educational tools or equipment, even in terms of treatment, therapeutic care. And we are going to look at the team that is going to take care of this individual, and we'll also realize that there is no one person who will be able to take care of overall needs of such an individual. And hence now that can tell you the impact financially that the family will have to go through. Secondly, there are emotional challenges that there's these siblings or even these family members, you find that there is stress that comes with managing the needs of this individual. There is challenges in adapting because this person needs
a shock.
Yes, a lot of patience, a lot of understanding. Sometimes they do not know what is happening in the first place. So there is a lot of emotional turmoil. Okay. Then there are changes in family dynamics, such as what you find that because this child is struggling with this condition, you find that there is some form of focus that is given to this particular child, and then there is no equal distribution of that, maybe parental care or attention. So unakuta sasa mambo yote imebaki ni kwa huyu mtoto mmoja. So the rest wana end up to lose out.
So and they will feel isolated and as if they are not being taken care of.
Absolutely. However, there are also some form of, we would say, positives, because in the course of development, you find that these people will have to adopt some skills or let me call them skills, because there's a lot of patience that is required, a lot of empathy that is required, kwa sababu huyu ni mtu, as we've been explained to, that anahitaji kuoneshwa mapenzi, anahitaji ukue mpole na yeye, kwa sababu vitu zingine when it comes to language or communication, unakuta hawezi kujieleza vizuri. When you've brought this toys. Unakuta pengine hata hazitaki, anataka kufanya kitu kingine. So you find that there's a lot of patience that is required and empathy, and we are also going to focus on how now do these caregivers live with these people so that they are eventually able to lead a more manageable life.
So you are saying that in some families it may lead to strong bonds and empathy and understanding.
Correct.
So that's amazing. Maybe now George can tell us, because in the field of addiction and mental health disorders, how does autism really affect, or how does addiction affect this condition?
Yeah, so there is a very strong relationship between autism and addictive tendencies. And when we're looking at addictive tendencies and autism, mostly we go back to the symptoms that Duku was mentioning. For example, when you look at one of the symptoms, is difficulty in social interaction. So you have a person mwenye haezi interact na watu, haezi prove a point to someone, make a point, and because of this difficulty, they will try to cope in some way. One of the ways humanity knows how to cope with is substance use. Anaanza kunywa, anaanza kutumia whichever drugs they are using, and by so doing, addiction starts developing. And another way that autism relates to addiction is through another symptom, the routines that these people follow, and the rigidity in that routine. And when such a person starts a routine that is either behavioral in nature or a routine that is substance use, because of the rigidity in people with autism, they will continue with that specific routine or that specific behavior that they have adopted, and by so doing, addiction inaanza kuingia.
So kama ni kuzoea, anazoea substance, na hiyo ndio anakuwa rigid. This is what I know.
It is very hard to move that person from that behavior. Another one is also related to a symptom that you also mentioned, senses. One of the biggest symptoms of autism is sensory sensitivity. Vile mtu, for example, vile mtu, the average person is going to experience sensory things such as light, touch, and all that. Because of that sensory stimulation, for example, let us use an example of touch, and this is also quite common for people with autism. Because of the stimulation of touch, huyu mtu akizoea something that is stimulating through touch, they become fixated on that specific behavior. And a good example is masturbation, which majority of people with autism, especially during the late adolescence to early adulthood, start manifesting. And the last one, another relationship, is because of these difficulties and how they interact with people, there might be chances of comorbidities with mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, also ADHD is also very common. And because of these comorbidities, and we also know in our previous videos we've mentioned the relationship between some of these comorbidities with addiction, a person becomes even more prone to addiction than the average.
Na ndio kwa maana tunasema when we talk of comorbidities ama magonjwa mawili matatu kutokea kwa pamoja, that is where we are saying we'll need a multidisciplinary team approach ili kuweza kubainisha ni ipi. Is it anxiety and depression, or what exactly is there? That is where tutahusisha child psychologists, we'll have psychiatrists, pediatric
developmental pediatrics.
Yes, because we are saying that this is a neurological and a developmental illness. That is why we'll need specialists ambao wataweza kufanya these investigations and evaluations, and then once they have their own findings is when now they will work together to help this person develop their speech, deal with the language, be able to learn, and also run some few other tests to be able to get a conclusive view of this individual and now chart a way forward in terms of now treatment and support.
Okay, so and that's very good because so you've laid out the whole aspect of assessment. So it really requires a multidisciplinary team.
Correct.
To really differentiate, is it autism, is it ADHD, is it another developmental disorder? And how do we treat ASD?
Treatment in terms of treatment, there are different ways of managing it, because we at the end of the day, it's no cure. Hautaenda kwa daktari uko na autism upatiwe dawa uambiwe autism itaisha. So it's a combination of different treatment modalities to at least achieve some form of functionality. One of the ways is medication. And when we say medication, si kumaanisha ati kuna dawa ya autism. Yeah. It's mostly to deal with some of these difficulties. For example, we can have people with autism can have a lot of agitation because nobody is understanding them. There's a lot of sensory stimulation and all that. They feel overwhelmed. Yes, you can come with some form of agitation. So you can use medication to relieve the agitation. Okay. Then we can also have autism with so many other comorbidities, depression, anxiety. We can use medication to relieve some of these comorbidities. Then beyond medication, we also have therapies. For example, behavioral ways of managing some of the symptoms. Then also, very importantly, you also involve the family. The family needs to know how to live with the person.
And also not leaving out the caregiver.
The caregiver. So you are psychoeducate the caregiver to understand how to.
The support system is very important. Including them.
And also skills training, basic things like hygiene. That's very important. And I think one of the last questions we just want to engage viewers is on outside here we have a child who has autism spectrum disorder. How can we help? How can we cope? How can we live with them? And one of the suggestions that we normally give is, one, these people need a lot of understanding. So we need to understand what autism is. So it is good to educate yourself about autism. It's good to really give them space, respect their space and their privacy. It's good when you are speaking to them, you speak clearly and in a language that they can understand.
Very easy language.
Easy language. It is good to also learn, observe, what could they really be saying, so you are really observing keenly. And again, they also need a lot of love and they also need a lot of support. It's also good maybe to replan your schedules, because we have talked about repetitive behaviors. They may need more time than the other kid, maybe to prepare.
And also when we're looking at learning, the process of learning, because of the stimulation of sensory input, sometimes they do better when you have visual aids. Instead of just kuandika, use charts, use pictures,
videos and all that.
And it doesn't have to be the academic learning, even the basic things. Hygiene and all that, when you are able to use visual aids, it's a lot easier for them to learn.
And we have also seen some form of intelligence being associated with such individuals. So really it's not all things that are bad in as far as autism is concerned, and that is why we are calling for you to embrace this individual, and there's what you can do, you as the family or the caregiver, to accommodate them and to be able to help them lead a more manageable life.
Thank you.
Yes.
And your concluding words?
Mostly it's when you look at autism, it doesn't mean that just because you have a sibling, just because you have a child with autism, that all hope is lost. In fact, when first of all, early treatment, early management is very important. Start it as early as possible, because we have so many people who have been able to go through the treatment process and their functionality has been restored. This person can be independent and they can live their life productively.
So tuache kuficha watoto kwa nyumba just because mtoto haongei vizuri, mtoto hasikizi vizuri, mtoto is not able to interact with others. Let's love these children. Let's focus on their strengths. Some of them, as Antoine is saying, become the best artists, the best people in graphic designs and all that. So let's have them assessed, have them treated, have them supported, and all of us really will have a wonderful time. Thank you so much for listening to us and watching us. We will be back with another interesting topic. Thank you.